Viewer discretion is strongly advised. What you're about to hear is not fiction. These are the exact words spoken in federal court during the explosive trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press, in a case that has already shaken the entertainment world to its core. An unexpected figure stepped into the courtroom, not a victim, not a journalist, but Hollywood royalty, Leonardo DiCaprio. Known for keeping his private life fiercely guarded, DiCaprio stunned the courtroom by delivering testimony that left even seasoned attorneys and federal agents visibly shaken. What secret did he carry that was worth risking his entire career? What did he witness that pushed him to break a silence spanning over 2 decades? And perhaps most chillingly, why did the judge immediately seal portions of the transcript the moment DiCaprio spoke about a location he called the Vault, a place said to hold footage, documents, and blackmail material on hundreds of public figures? As DiCaprio testified, 3 high-profile spectators were suddenly escorted out of the courtroom by federal agents. The courtroom went still. No one spoke. No one moved. This wasn't a scene from a film. This was real. Inside that courtroom, facing serious federal charges, Diddy sat motionless. His face, once confident and composed, turned tight with visible tension the moment DiCaprio took the stand. He wasn't there as a character witness. He wasn't a former collaborator. He was there because he had seen too much. DiCaprio began calmly, his voice steady but deliberate. He described in chilling detail what prosecutors have called one of the most organized and calculated blackmail operations ever uncovered in Hollywood. He spoke of events, parties, meetings, private gatherings that on the surface seemed glamorous. But beneath the champagne and celebrity, DiCaprio claimed, was a network of manipulation, surveillance, and control. It started with cameras, he said. Then the cameras got smaller, the rooms got more private, the guests became more powerful, and then came the bombshell, the Vault, a secret facility possibly underground, and under tight surveillance where evidence was stored. Not just any evidence, but curated, cataloged footage of celebrities, politicians, business moguls, material allegedly used to manipulate, threaten, or silence. The judge interrupted. Portions of the testimony were sealed. DiCaprio's words had struck a nerve too dangerous to reveal to the public, at least not yet. Was he a victim of this system, a witness, or someone who discovered it by accident? He didn't say, but what he did reveal was enough to shift the balance of the entire trial. Diddy's lawyers scrambled. He leaned in toward them repeatedly, whispering, his body rigid. Legal analysts in the courtroom reported seeing something they hadn't seen before. Panic. Over nearly 5 hours, DiCaprio painted a picture, not of celebrity gossip, but of a machine, a cold, calculated operation designed to gather leverage over the world's most powerful people. What began as networking became something else entirely, DiCaprio said. You started noticing patterns, who got invited where, who disappeared into the private rooms, who never came back. He described events from the early 2000s when Diddy's social empire expanded beyond music into film, fashion, tech, and politics. According to DiCaprio, these weren't just parties, they were opportunities, not for fun, but for power. And when DiCaprio began putting the pieces together, he became concerned. Quiet conversations with others who had noticed similar things only confirmed his suspicions. He wasn't alone, and this trial may only be the beginning. Because if what DiCaprio said is true, if this vault exists, it doesn't just threaten Diddy's career. It threatens to expose a system where the rich and famous aren't just admired. They're watched, controlled, and kept in check by those who hold the tapes. Stay with us, because what happens next could rip through the entire entertainment industry. This is only the beginning. But what DiCaprio revealed next made the courtroom go cold. He began detailing what he'd noticed, not just over days or months, but over years. A pattern, a machine, a silent system designed to gather power through quiet, well-crafted leverage. It wasn't random, he said. I began seeing how certain executives, financiers, and decision-makers were pulled aside, given more exclusive access during these parties. These weren't just elite social invites. They were strategic moves. According to DiCaprio, around 2006 or 2007, his unease began to grow. People he trusted, respected directors, producers, writers began quietly mentioning strange things that happened at the private parts of Diddy's events. Phones were taken, privacy was promised. And then things got blurry, he testified. Some of those people later received disturbing reminders, subtle, almost threatening references made during unrelated business deals. It was as if their private moments were no longer private, but owned. Then came a turning point. In 2009, a director, DiCaprio, had worked with a man known for his integrity, suddenly backed out of a contractual dispute with one of Diddy's business ventures. DiCaprio asked him why. The man didn't explain. He just looked uneasy, and then he said something that DiCaprio never forgot. Leo. Some people keep better records of parties than others. Sometimes it's easier to compromise on business than on personal matters. That line haunted him. From that day on, DiCaprio began paying closer attention. He started noticing a chilling pattern. People who had taken strong stances against Diddy suddenly going quiet, suddenly folding, and each time there was a private meeting that preceded it. It wasn't coincidence. It was calculated then. In 2012, things escalated again. A man only referred to in court as Mr. K, a former studio security consultant, reached out to DiCaprio. They spoke under the pretense of discussing film set security. But the conversation quickly shifted. Mr. K had worked briefly with Diddy's private security team. What he revealed shocked DiCaprio. Hidden cameras, strategic placement, not just for protection, but for recording. Capturing clear, high-definition footage in spaces specifically used for those exclusive private gatherings. According to Mr. K, the purpose wasn't safety, it was leverage. Footage wasn't stored as security archives, it was referred to internally as the leverage archive. Still, even this was secondhand. Until 2014, while working on a film that required deep research into surveillance tech, DiCaprio was introduced to Mr. L, another former member of Diddy's security team. Unlike Mr. K, Mr. L didn't just hear about the operation. He claimed he helped run it. He confirmed the existence of what insiders called the vault, a secured facility, not a metaphor, a real place, with physical and digital records, all meticulously organized. Names, dates, locations, faces, acts, everything stored. DiCaprio testified that Mr. L described a system built on strategy, not luck. They identified targets, created environments that invited risky behavior, and made sure everything was captured. From the right angles, with the right lighting, with the right silence at first, they merely documented what happened naturally. But over time, according to Mr. L, they engineered the events themselves. This included manipulating alcohol flow, introducing substances to lower inhibitions, separating guests from their devices, and guiding them into increasingly compromising situations, all while cameras rolled silently in the background. It was a progression, DiCaprio said, from observation to orchestration. Prosecutors then presented records confirming both Mr. K and Mr. L had indeed worked for Diddy during the timeframes DiCaprio described. This wasn't hearsay anymore. This was credible. This was dangerous. And it wasn't over yet, because in early 2015, Mr. L offered DiCaprio something no one else had. Proof. What DiCaprio described next pulled back the curtain on a system far more vast than anyone imagined. This wasn't just about a vault full of secrets. It was about power, real power, shaping the narrative across industries. DiCaprio testified that over the years, he began to notice a disturbing pattern, a pattern that echoed across film, music, fashion, finance, and beyond anywhere Diddy's business interests reached. And the pattern was influence. There was a recurring tendency, he said, for potentially damaging media stories to either vanish or be rewritten in ways that removed their teeth. He explained how major news outlets would cover an initial controversy involving Diddy, only for the story to suddenly disappear or get reframed in oddly favorable language. Sometimes I had direct knowledge of the events being reported, DiCaprio told the court. And the way they were covered or buried made no sense unless there was some kind of external pressure at play. But it wasn't just media. DiCaprio began noticing how respected industry professionals, people known for their principles, were behaving differently in negotiations involving Diddy's companies. Deals were being approved that made no commercial sense, Positions that were once held firmly were suddenly abandoned. These weren't subtle compromises, DiCaprio explained. They were dramatic reversals, often delivered with visible discomfort. When asked why this mattered, DiCaprio didn't hesitate. Because the damage wasn't limited to a few bad decisions, he said, it rippled outward, affecting entire productions, careers, and even the kind of content the public was ultimately allowed to see. The courtroom was silent. DiCaprio described how this alleged influence extended to how the entire industry responded to scandals involving Diddy, especially those that should have triggered distancing, suspensions, or formal investigations. Instead, he said, standard risk management policies seem to vanish. In most cases, when serious allegations surface against a public figure, studios and partners move quickly to protect their brand, DiCaprio stated. But in Diddy's case, it was different. I saw organizations hesitate. I saw them look the other way. Even award shows and professional guilds, DiCaprio testified, seemed to operate under a different set of rules when it came to Diddy. Panels that acted swiftly in other cases appeared to stall or stay silent. Reputation management protocols, usually airtight, became surprisingly relaxed. It created a double standard, DiCaprio said. The consequences others would face for similar actions simply didn't apply to Mr. Combs. And the reason, leveraged. The chilling suggestion throughout DiCaprio's testimony was that the presence of compromising material, or even the possibility of it, was enough to alter behavior across an entire industry. People fell in line, not because they were told to, but because they were afraid not to. For DiCaprio, it was a slow realization, but once the pieces came together, he could no longer unsee them. He took action, quietly. Strategically, he stopped attending certain events. He limited business with certain groups. He sought legal counsel about what he had learned. I had to think about how this system worked and how close I had come to being caught in it, he testified. And with those final words, the courtroom knew this was no longer just about one man on trial. It was about an entire ecosystem silently built on secrets. And then, the moment everything changed, DiCaprio told the court that in 2015, Mr. L, the former security operative, did something unthinkable. He showed him evidence, not rumors, not speculation. Proof, double quotes, he was nervous, DiCaprio said. This wasn't just a whistleblower trying to do the right thing. He was someone who had seen what happened to others who asked too many questions. Mr. L revealed he had quietly saved a small batch of data, not to leak it, but to protect himself. DiCaprio testified that he was shown screenshots of an internal database, a cataloging system that appeared disturbingly advanced. Every file was labeled, tagged, timestamped, sorted. There were hundreds of names, he told the court. Executives, artists, directors, politicians. Some files dated back over a decade. Each entry was accompanied by keywords, names, locations, events, and most unsettling ratings. A ranking system apparently used to measure just how damaging or useful each piece of footage might be. This wasn't just surveillance. It was a leverage machine. The prosecutor leaned forward. Mr. DiCaprio, can you tell us who you saw in that database? But before he could respond, attorneys rushed to the bench. A heated sidebar followed. Moments later, the judge ruled that DiCaprio could not name individuals publicly to avoid interference with ongoing federal investigations. Instead, he was asked to describe categories, his voice steady. DiCaprio answered, the system included major studio heads, top directors, A-list actors and actresses, media figures, and a number of financial executives with ties to the entertainment industry. Even certain political personalities, especially those connected through endorsements or campaigns. And then he described the video. A single clip, no audio, just visual. But what it revealed was enough. It showed a high-ranking industry executive, someone widely known in an extremely compromising position, he said. It was taken at one of Mr. Combs' private events. The camera angle, the clarity. It wasn't accidental, it was planned. The courtroom fell silent. You could hear the echo of breaths being held. This wasn't a shaky phone video, DiCaprio added. It was clean, well-framed, high resolution. Whoever installed that camera knew exactly what they were doing. The way the clip was captured suggested one thing. This individual had been set up, and from that moment, DiCaprio's view of the industry shifted completely. He testified that what once looked like odd business decisions, sudden changes in contract terms, unexpected media blackouts, creative turnarounds began to make horrifying sense. I started recognizing the patterns, he said. Stories that should have been reported vanished. Directors who once took bold stances folded. Entire productions were shaped around people or companies linked to Mr. Combs, even when the math didn't make sense. DiCaprio explained that as someone deeply involved in both the creative and financial sides of filmmaking, he had access to things others didn't. He could see the influence, not just on screen, but behind the scenes. Some projects were greenlit despite terrible forecasts, he said. Deals were made that shouldn't have passed even basic due diligence. And always, Diddy's name was somewhere in the background. That was when DiCaprio knew. This wasn't about ego, or fame, or even money. It was about control. Control of narratives, control of people, control of Hollywood itself.